Free News and Views. This is Brian About Town, your host, here with Mike Furman. Mike, good to see you.
Hey, Brian, it's great to see you. I'm glad to see you survive your bachelor party this weekend.
I survived in pretty good shape. I didn't have to call the law. I asked Darren Campbell before I went if he knew the sheriff up there, so I put in some good words for him. So thank you for it. It was a good time, and Gina had a good time down at Tybee Island.
Okay.
So
Great.
Thank you for asking. Hey, we want to thank our sponsors. We got Randy Marion, Mitchell College, Piedmont Healthcare, Blue Harbor Bank, Fast Fields, Key to Escape, the escape room, and the Statesville Family YMCA, and now McDonald's of Iredell County be sponsoring our first responder, and we got a neat one today. So you had a few news items, Mike.
Yeah, went to the Statesville City Council meeting last night. A couple items of interest that I passed along. One, the city finalized the annexation of the auto auction property. To a lot of people that wouldn't seem like a big deal, but what it means to the city is $16 million for the tax base.
Wow, wow.
And similarly, they gave a preliminary approval to annexation and rezoning for a new site for Carolina RV, and that'll add $7 million to the tax base. That's 52 acres right off of Martin Lane, which is kind of near the interstate.
Excellent.
So two big things there, and then one other thing that was neat the City Council did last night, they unanimously passed a resolution proclaiming June 17th as National Garbage Collectors Day here in Statesville.
Okay.
That doesn't seem like a big deal, but this is a group of city employees who deserve hard-working, deserve a pat on the back. Some of the numbers last night that the mayor pointed out, they service over 9,000 homes and more than 500 businesses every week.
Actually, and if you've ever been out on a cold, wet, rainy day and you see them out there, that's a tough job.
Only tougher when it's 100 degrees.
In 100 degrees, and then you get the stench of
right,
all that.
And so I know one thing the city pointed out is they've started their 6 a.m. They started at 6 a.m. for the warmer weather.
Oh, for the warmer weather. Okay.
And then just one last thing, the school board also met yesterday. An area of interest to most people would be that Superintendent Brady Johnson proposed giving all central office employees a 4-year contract.
Excellent.
And there was some debate over that. It seemed like there were a few board members who supported that, but in the end, Sam Kennington made a motion to approve a 2-year contract for all central office employees, and that passed by a 4-3 vote. So a little security for those employees, not exactly what the superintendent had hoped for, but I think probably a good compromise.
Excellent. Good start. Good start. Hey, you ran a story last week. I went out to the Statesville Regional Airport. They had some fire training out there, and you ran some pictures, but I've got some great video out there. I talked to Spencer Lee, David Bullens, Megan Zuber, and this is where Mitchell and the fire department are working together, because the airport is a significant tax base for us.
Oh, definitely.
And that we need to protect that, so this certification allows the firefighters to know how to react when they have a fire at the airport.
You're right. I mean, these are $30, $40, $50 million jets flying in there and flying out. The people who own those want to know that the fire department will be on the spot quickly if they need it.
So let's take a look.
Allowing them to get certified. So everybody is going to be certified after this. This is their last day. It's kind of their pinnacle of the class. Right, very good. Well, thank you very much, Dave.
Hey everybody, it's Brian About Town. I'm out here at the Statesville Regional Airport and ran into some friends here, Megan Zuber and David Bullens from Mitchell College. And in the middle is the one and only Fire Chief Spencer Lee. And David, talk a little bit about what you're doing today with the plane behind me.
We have we're working with Cleveland Community College, a partnership, to use a plane prop they have for us to do a fire rescue certification class involving airplanes. So we've got mostly Statesville firefighters here today, and they'll get their certification. This is kind of the last of their classes of the week long.
So Spencer, this is not just new folks; these are seasoned veterans that are getting continuing education.
Well, we got a number of firefighters here that don't hold the airport firefighter certification.
Right.
So we're glad that Mitchell's working with us in partnership with Cleveland to get the certification here in the Statesville area, because we provide fire protection for the Statesville Regional Airport, which is a great place to fly out of.
That's right.
And so we want to make sure that we're providing the best protection, best level of protection that we can for the patrons of this airport. And so with this training, it'll help our firefighters be more prepared for that.
And in my previous interview, you were talking about how you're all hazard department. So
Yes.
this could be a hazard.
That's right.
That's right. Take care of that. And Megan, this is just one of many programs that Mitchell has for you to expand your vocational outreach.
Absolutely. We've got short-term and long-term training. We'd like to say whether you have 2 months or 2 years, we have a class to help you out. David Bullens runs the public safety, and he can tell us all about all the different areas that we can train professionals in the Statesville, Iredell area.
Right.
But we also have nursing, we have other law enforcement, we have business administration, anything that you can think to offer, Mitchell offers it.
Thank you. So David, thank you for overseeing this program, and Chief Lee, thank you for making us safe.
Yes.
Keeping us safe. And Megan, thank you for all you do at Mitchell. Chief Lee, we're here. You were talking about you hear these little beeps go on off and on.
Be cautious of the fact of how many people you got in the back end of the church.
So the
That's a live airplane and they jump back on stage.
devices on called PASS devices,
Right.
Personal Alert Safety System. And those devices will detect when the firefighter's not moving. So if something happens to a firefighter, they become incapacitated because maybe something fell on them, knocked them out, or maybe they fell into a hole in the floor.
Right.
Then that device will help other firefighters locate them because it'll start beeping to alert, and then it'll make a loud chirping noise. So other firefighters be aware that we've got one down.
Yeah, I just heard one. Yeah.
Yep.
So if they're immobile for an extended period of time, it gets louder and louder.
For 30 seconds, it'll start chirping, and then as it'll chirp for a little while to alert. Say if you're or I are wearing air pack and we're not moving for 30 seconds and it starts chirping, then we can just wiggle our body a little bit and reset it. Otherwise, if we become incapacitated, it'll go into a full alarm, and it's got to be negotiated by somebody before it goes.
We'll all gather around up here.
Very good, Chief Lee. Thank you very much. It's great to see. I showed you in the video. It's great to see those guys working hard and getting more training. And Spencer is doing a good job. And then also you got David Bullens, a former fire chief, is at the public safety at Mitchell College.
Right, and I think, again, a great partnership between Mitchell and the fire department, and really you can't have too much training for our first responders, so it's great to see the city taking advantage of this partnership with Mitchell.
I have verse. Lord, what fools these mortals be. You know what play that comes from, Mike?
It must be a Midsummer Night's Dream.
And then you told me off camera that was your first, you were in the 8th grade in that play.
It was a horrible experience. I learned then that I was not made for the big stage or the little stage, and probably not even for this stage.
No, you're doing great.
Thank you.
And but I did catch up with Adrian Shea, the director of Midsummer Night's Dream. It's going to start June 21st, and Keith Ryan from the Sharp House. But here's what's neat. There's an area, they're building a stage between the Pasture House and the Sharp House. They're off of Meeting Street, and there's going to be a nice amphitheater. And I go out there and talk to them. So listen what they have to say about this outstanding event coming up, put on by Theater Statesville. Though she be but small, she is fierce. The course of true love never does go smooth. Those are just two of the lines you're going to hear right here between the Pasture House and the Sharp House beginning June 21st when Theater Statesville presents A Midsummer Night's Dream. And I'm here with Adrian Shea. It's good to see you. And Keith Ryan. It's good to see you.
Good morning, Brian.
So we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on. They're building the stage back here in the pasture. In the pasture. In the what do you call it? The pasture, I guess?
We do. We call it the pasture. In 1866, when the house was finished, this was a 13-acre farm,
Wow.
not a house in town.
Right.
We were outside of town. We had a farm, we had a barn, and a pasture. So now, instead of Shakespeare in the park, we're Shakespeare in the pasture.
It's going to be outside. So, Adrian, I asked you before we started this, why do we still find Shakespeare fascinating after 400 years?
I have to admit, Brian, that I was not a Shakespeare fan.
Right.
I learned it in school. I was never a fan of it because I couldn't understand it. And that has followed. When I was asked to direct this, I laughed in his face because I don't do Shakespeare.
Right.
But it became a challenge and I took it on. And what I have found is that how amazing it mimics life even today. And all you have to do is break it down and it becomes so relevant. I find myself thinking of lines throughout the day that match what I'm going through.
Right.
It's amazing. 400 years later, it's still
Because
completely relevant.
There were other writers at the time that were very famous, but none of their works are performed anymore.
Correct.
Okay. So, I've done many other plays, but I've never done Shakespeare, and I was told by Ben Thomas Reed that this is one you've got to get the lines right.
You do. When I was approached, I was asked by one of the board members to do this, and he said, but I'm not sure that we can do the original Shakespeare. He said, I think we need to do the modern version. Well, I was up for that because, again, I didn't know Shakespeare. I got the modern version and I hated it. Hated it. It just didn't flow off the lips. It was ugly.
Right.
So I endeavored to blend the script with a lot of the original and a little bit of the modern and back and forth. And what I found after I cast the show is that several of my main characters really knew how to do Shakespeare.
Right.
And so we've brought back, and I would say 85–90% of it or more is just straight out original Shakespeare, and yet you will love it, you will understand it, because the characters actually come to life through the actors that are cast.
I'm excited, Keith, you were talking about, last year we brought the first version of the Tom Dooley Project, and this was the second year, something new to Statesville. And now you're creating a venue, it's going to be another downtown venue here. You must be excited about this.
I am very excited. Sleepless nights, I've lost weight, yay, I'm happy. But developing the Sharp House, creating something new, keeping an interest in it, giving back to Statesville. And this has been a true community effort this time. Back to the old days of community theater where people got together for the love of the art, and we volunteers built this platform so far.
Okay.
We are probably 40% finished with it. More work will go on this afternoon. Some flaps that have been graciously donated to us will be put on the stage to complete it. The walls and the backdrop will go up. It's going to be an ongoing right up until the last minute process.
I'm sure.
But the rain put us behind schedule. But all in all, we're creating something new. And once again, it's going to be a Sharp House and Theater Statesville event for those that choose, because we're going to have a feast at the Sharp House. Yes,
feast fit for Shakespeare.
Yes. We're going to have a buffet dinner. It'll have prime rib, baked chicken, all the vegetables, all the sides, and of course we'll make homemade desserts that we're famous for.
Right.
Wow.
And so that is available, and you can get 2 different types of tickets for adults. There are non-alcoholic beverages available, plus we also have a ticket with the wine service available.
So I'm going to put the link right here for Eventbrite, so you can go out and buy your tickets, and buy tickets also for the play itself. One more question about the play. What have you found fascinating about Midsummer Night's Dream?
I really didn't know how funny it was, the play within the play. When I first started looking at it, because I'd never seen it prior to this, I mistakenly assumed that the mechanicals were minor parts.
Right.
And I have really learned through this play that there really are no small parts.
Right.
You've heard it said, but I've really learned that there are no small parts. My mechanicals doing this play within a play will absolutely steal the show in a great way.
They do.
It is the funniest. I've laughed at every rehearsal. It's hysterical.
So it still makes it amazing. So now, how many plays have you directed?
This is my third.
Your third,
It's
okay.
just my third.
And you find it fun?
Oh, I didn't think I would ever lose my love for acting, but it's been trumped by my love for directing.
Okay,
It's a fascinating endeavor.
Well, I'll look forward. I want to try out for a Shakespeare play sometime, because I think it would be well worth the personal development.
Hopefully this is going to
This is
become
the
an
first
annual
of every
tradition.
year.
Okay.
I did want to add one little quick note in
Okay.
about the mulberry tree. It's mentioned in the script. Pyramus and Thisbe meet and die under a mulberry tree.
Okay.
And the color of the berries is purported to be their blood stains. Standing right over there, we can't see it on camera, but we have a mulberry tree in our midst.
Wow.
And so it's just all these different things we're finding. I'm finding it creating the venue that we have luscious woodbine, which over canopies the bower of Queen Titania. We have eglantine. And these are things that I challenge people to look up and see what it is.
So you can make reference to it during the play?
Absolutely. We absolutely do make reference to it.
Work it in.
It's in the script.
Wow.
It's in the script.
Okay.
And Brian, I do want to mention that this is completely a endeavor between the Sharp House and Theater Statesville, as Keith said. Keith has been amazing. not only as the site manager for Sharp House doing all of this, he has been my co-director. He might be listed as my assistant director, but he is my co-director. He has had amazing ideas. He's overseen the costuming. They're in for a big surprise when they see the period that we're doing. But he has also had to step in the last couple of weeks as a major character.
Oh, you're going to be on stage. Bravo, bravo,
So,
Keith. Look forward to that.
Cross your
Lord
fingers.
Oberon
Okay, very
is among
good.
us.
Very good. So
I'm-
there you have it. How many folks will this venue hold?
We don't know yet. We're shooting for 125 to 150 that night.
Okay, so
Each night.
go to Eventbrite, because I bet this will sell out, and get your tickets for a lovely evening in downtown Statesville between the Sharp House and the Pasture House, a new venue. So Adrian, thank you for,
Thank you.
Keith, thank you.
Thank
and,
you, Brian.
And break a leg up there.
Thank you, sir.
All right,
Thank
so Eventbrite and Midsummer Night's Dream. Presented by Theater. What I love about this is we're going to have another venue. This is a permanent. This is not a part-time venue. They're going to have an event. There's a stage set up there, so they can have bands, music, plays outside. So it's
Another great venue for the downtown Statesville area. One thing that I think we should point out here too is just the great work that Theater Statesville does, and how important that is to the fabric of Statesville. I mean, we have 4 or 5 great plays every year. Typically, they've been in the over here in Twisted Oak, but this gives them another opportunity, and it'll be nice to be outside under the stars. It'll be a totally different experience.
providing it doesn't storm.
Right.
We hope not. But and you heard Keith talk about what a community effort. So thank you, Adrian, and thank you, Keith, what you do. Moving on, our mover and shaker this week, I went over to see Jim Mixon at Clerk of Court. They moved some things around there, and you also learned what the mission statement is for the Clerk of Court.
Right, and I think most people only go in the courthouse oftentimes when they don't want to.
Right.
Maybe they've gotten a ticket, or they've gotten in some kind of trouble, or they're there dealing with a will or
Right.
some kind of fine. It's important to know where to go and who to see, and also the challenges that Mr. Mixon's staff faces just in the space that they have, and also technologically they face some serious challenges.
And he talks about the new system that's coming forward to make that a lot easier. Okay, so let's take a look. Hey everybody, I'm down here at the courthouse, Iredell County Courthouse, and I'm in the Clerk of Court's office. And I'm here with Jim Mixon, the Iredell County Clerk of Court. So we'll pan over to see Jim. Right there's Jim. Jim, how you doing today?
Good morning.
Good morning. So you wanted to talk about some changes that are taking place here in the at the courthouse. Talk about what you just showed me. We'll show the folks what's going on here at the courthouse.
All right. Well, you know, everybody knows we're starting to construct a jail out here in what used to be our parking lot, and that facilitated a lot of changes into entry and exit to the courthouse. It got us thinking about how people come and go and throughout the courthouse and things like that. So we looked at the layout of the clerk's office, and particularly our estates division, our special proceedings division, and where our juvenile department was. And they were both in the back in what we call the vault. And, and just some history of the building. Many years ago, the Register of Deeds office and our office basically shared the space that we have now. The Register of Deeds office moved out and the clerk's office expanded, and that was before I became clerk. That was back when Ms. Turner was the clerk. And so, but you know, as you move through and work through things, many of those areas kind of became confusing, and you know, you had people in one area, then files, and then more people and desk, and then so it was just kind of a hodgepodge layout. So what we tried to do was organize the vault areas, and we put all our files in one vault, and then put all our people, all their deputy and assistant clerks in another vault, and tried to make that area a little bit more user-friendly for the public to come in.
Right. So, you know, beyond that, you know, let's ask a very basic question. You know, and I'm fascinated by this. Now, you're not a county employee.
No, sir. I'm a state employee.
And to tell people, what is the function of the clerk of court now? It's changed over the years.
It has. The clerk now has many functions. The clerk, I think most people think of the clerk as the person who sits in the courtroom next to the judge and takes down what the judge says and keeps up with the docket and keeps up with the files that are in court. And that is one of the very many important roles of the clerk of Superior Court. But in North Carolina, the clerk is also the judge of probate. And that goes back, way back in the history of our state. If you, as I mentioned earlier, if you go to South Carolina, you go to a probate court judge. Well, in North Carolina, you come to the clerk. So the clerk has judicial authority in North Carolina, unlike any other state in the country that we're aware of. The clerk not only hears matters of probate and matters of estates, but also hears many special proceedings. Foreclosures, most foreclosures come before the clerk, they don't go in front of a judge. Adoptions are heard by the clerk. Incompetency determinations, appointment of guardians, all of those matters are heard by the clerk of Superior Court in North Carolina, as opposed to a judge in many other states. I'm sorry.
So you're elected, of course.
Yes, sir.
And you run every 4 years.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if people need assistance, so they should just come down to the courthouse and come to the front desk and.
Right. And it just depends on what kind of assistance they need. Where our office is divided basically in 4 sections. There's a criminal department, and as I tell everybody, that's where everything from a traffic ticket for running a stop sign or speeding all the way to a first-degree murder case. That's where all those matters are handled in the criminal department. If you need a criminal record check for your job or something along those lines, then that's where you would go. You'd go to the criminal department. Our civil department is where lawsuits are filed.
Right.
Evictions, divorces, people suing somebody for monetary damages, anything along those lines, that would be the civil department.
Right.
The next area would be basically what we were talking about earlier, the estates and the special proceedings area. And that's when if somebody passes away, that their family or somebody that's appointed to administer their estate would come in, their will would be probated if they have one. The executor or administrator or even a collector would be appointed to administer their estate. If you're going to file to have somebody declared incompetent, which is becoming increasingly more common
with dementia,
Alzheimer's, and a lot of requirements of the healthcare industry.
Sure. And I do remember when I did my father's estate, they made it very clear you can't give advice on what to do.
No, sir. No, and again, as I mentioned, we're judicial officials. Many of the assistant clerks have the same judicial authority that I have.
Right.
So they can actually hear cases themselves, and actually probating a will is a court proceeding, even though we do it
here and then
at somebody's desk in an ex parte kind of hearing.
Right.
It's still a court proceeding. It's still a binding judgment, essentially.
Right.
So no, that's why we can't give any kind of legal advice, and we're barred by the rules the state Supreme Court puts out, as well as state general statutes and in the Code of Judicial Ethics.
So I'm going to put down at the bottom of the screen, you have a website, obviously, or a link through the county.
Correct. Well, we actually have 2. The state court system has a website, getting ready to, I don't know what, but our new website goes live later this week. So I'll give you the link to both of those.
Okay.
And then we also have a page on the county website that's got some local information, some of our local rules, and directions to the court facilities and things like that.
And then you also alluded to down the line, we're going to get more electronically savvy as we move forward.
Absolutely. The court system, the statewide court system, and as I mentioned, kind of mentioned earlier, we have a unified court system in North Carolina. All our counties, all 100, and even the Cherokee Indian Nation are part of the unified court system in North Carolina. So all 100 counties have to abide by the same rules. We all use the same computer systems.
Right.
And we are in the process of upgrading some very old computer systems and moving into a digital environment. Where most filings will be electronic instead of paper-based, and it would be a fully integrated court management system. I'm very excited about it. I've had the opportunity to work on the Clerk's Conference Technology Committee, and Judge Warren, our director, the administrative office of the courts, he's very passionate about it as well. We had the opportunity last Friday to go to Raleigh and visit a technology showcase. Many vendors from outside of the court system had put on a showcase there at the administrative office of the courts. Got to see some new things, got to see what some other states have doing, and very impressed with
Very good.
the capabilities
Very
of those
good.
systems.
Okay.
So we're looking forward to that.
Well, thank you, Jim, for updating. Last question I've got for you is: did you ever did anybody archive one of Carl Smith's cigars?
Not that I'm aware of. Now, Mr. Smith's picture's still over
Right.
here, and his plaque's still over here on this show. And this was Mr. Smith's desk as well.
Because he was 50 years.
He was the clerk for 50 years.
That's right. Well, Jim, you're doing a good job. Thank you for all you do for Iredell County. And come on out and see Jim if you need to address any of those matters in your life. Like I said, Jim says come over anytime. Now, one thing you have to remember, if you go into the courthouse, no cell phones, no recording devices, and you do go through heavy security when you go over there.
Right.
Okay, so up next, I went to see Matt Lenhardt with the NC Cooperative Extension Agency out there on Bristol Road. Is that right? Bristol Road, not Bristol Drive.
Right.
And, out there near the Public Safety Center they're building. And Matt wanted to share some information about NC 10%. It's about trying to push people to get local food. If folks will buy just 10% of their food locally, it'd be a big boon to the economy.
Oh, and I think it'd make a big difference, obviously, for the producers, but I think people would also see that they would be eating more healthful as well.
Right. And you have your opportunities, and we talk about it here, the farmers market. There's one in Troutman, there's two here in Statesville, and then agriculture is king here. So we're also going to be talking about, this is Dairy Month. I'll be interviewing somebody this month to talk about Dairy Month too as well. So let's take a look. Hey everybody, you've been hearing me talk about locally grown food, farm to plate. We've been to the farmers markets, and I want to tell you about something here. I'm at the NC State Cooperative Extension Agency on Bristol Road. I'm with my good friend Matt Lenhardt. How you doing, Matt?
Good to see you.
And as you'd always look good in that red shirt.
Well,
NC State shirt.
It doesn't look well.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so you asked me out here today to talk about the NC 10% program. What is NC 10%?
NC 10% is a program through North Carolina and NC State where we encourage folks to buy at least 10% of their produce. Anything basically produced locally,
Right.
beer, cheese, wine, anything else produced locally, try to buy at least 10% of that produced locally.
And that make a huge, just 10%.
Yeah.
Buying locally make a huge
Just 10% makes a huge deal in the economy, keeping the dollars local.
And speaking of the economy, agriculture is king in Iredell County.
Yeah.
It's the #1 industry, and the dairy industry leads the whole state.
It does.
Okay.
Yeah, that's huge.
So how do people participate in the NC 10% program?
Well, what they do is it's real easy. You just sign up for it, and what we're trying to do with this month is have a contest and a promotion going on.
Okay.
To make folks aware about it, it's going to be on our Facebook page on NC 10%
Iredell.
And the more that folks will like or share the posts with their friends on Facebook, they will get put into a drawing to win prizes.
Win prizes.
So the more like and
incentive.
share, the more chance you have of winning.
More share.
Yeah, winning prizes, some local restaurants and some places like that.
And of
So-
course, we've been promoting a lot. Here in Statesville, there is the Thursday evening farmers market in Pecan Park, and then up on Meeting Street, you have the Rotary on Wednesday morning and Saturday morning. And in Troutman, they
too.
have also one on Thursday
Thursdays.
afternoon. So
Yep.
there's plenty of opportunity to buy local, and a lot of the stores.
Yeah, and there's one in Harmony as well, so yeah.
So
Yeah.
all the way around. And also invite the folks out. If anybody wants to find out more information about this or any other agriculturally related question, they come here to your office?
Yep, and if I can help you, there's other agents that have that specialty. I'm horticulture, we got livestock, we have crops, we have 4-H, we have FCS, so yeah.
So come out and see Matt, and also look for the post.
Yes.
And please share any posts related to locally grown food, and he's looking for more promotion out there.
Yeah, we are, and please go to restaurants that buy local produce. That's another way you can participate. That restaurants do a really good job of doing that as well. So support those that buy local.
And I know there's some supermarkets here that do that too. So
Yeah,
check that out
absolutely.
and you do that. So Matt, thank you much, and I'll be putting more information right here about the NC 10% program. Have a great day.
You too.
Okay, Matt, that's great. So come on out to the farmers markets, buy local, support local, and so many opportunities to do that. Now, this week on the first responders really came out of last week, because Kevin Ice, I'd asked him a question about, what keeps you, when you're walking into a hot situation, what helps you prevent overreacting or underreacting? And it's all with the
The telecommunicators play a big role in that. It's kind of like phoning a friend. So that telecommunicator who is not on the scene and not with the deputies really is the lifeline between those two people.
Right.
They bring them together, and whether it's a medical emergency or a law enforcement type of situation, they're the providing information for law enforcement before they get there, and sometimes they're providing information to help the people who are there before EMS or law enforcement arrive.
Right, so take a listen, and Marc talks about something very unique that happened to him on one occasion. So let's take a look. Hey everybody, I'm here at the Iredell County ECOM Center, and our first responder segment sponsored by McDonald's, and with Marc Pruitt. Marc, good to see you.
You too.
We'll get you some free McDonald's too, if you like that. There
You can tell I love free McDonald's.
Oh, free McDonald's. Okay. So we wanted to, after our interview last week with Kevin Ice, he had talked about so important to get the, in a one way, Marc, you guys are maybe the first line because people call you 911.
Right. When somebody calls 911, we like to refer to ourselves as the first responders.
The first responder.
When they call us, we are the first point of contact to getting the public safety chain started.
Okay. And what motivated you to get into this?
Well, I've been in emergency services since I was 10 years old.
Really?
Started out as a junior firefighter down at Mount Warren Fire Department in 1983.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always been service oriented.
Mm-hmm.
You know, been through the fire service, done rescue squad, but I wanted something that was more career oriented,
Mm-hmm.
and with that, I decided to look into 911.
Very good. Okay.
So
And I also asked you about what was your most rewarding experience, and you shared me a very, very good experience. Tell everybody about that.
Well, it's been a few years ago, but I answered the telephone one morning, and a gentleman called, said that his wife was in labor and that they didn't know if they were going to be able to make it to the hospital for the delivery.
Right.
Speaking further with the caller, it was obvious that they weren't going to make it to the hospital for delivery. So I managed to talk him through. We have a set of cards here. At that time, they were cards, but was able to talk him through the birth and delivery process.
Right.
And found out later, after I talked to him, that the gentleman that I talked through the call was actually the first baseman for the Florida Marlins.
Wow.
At that time, Ty Wigginton.
So you help him, but he became a doctor that day, quote unquote.
He did, and it was the best catch of his life.
Best game. All right, very good. And another thing we talked about last week with Kevin Ice is, and for all the first responders, since you are the first responder, he said that his frame of mind, it's important for him to know what he's walking into. And,
right.
And you can't see what's going on, but you can hear, and you have to ascertain, is this really critical, or, is how dangerous is the situation? So I know that runs through your mind. So what are you thinking when you're trying to communicate with the officer?
The main thing that we want is, our goal is for everybody to go home safely.
Right.
At the end of the day. So basically, the information that we get from the caller helps us to frame what's going on at the scene.
Right.
So if the caller is acting frantic or something like that, we know that it's a more intense situation that the officer or whoever the responders are need to be aware of.
Mm-hmm.
So if the caller is calm, cool, collected, then that's going to make for an easier response for the responder to actually get there.
Now you probably have to ascertain if you need to have the police show up first. I've heard that the EMS will not enter a scene where there's like a gunman or something like that until the scene is cleared. Is that correct?
It's what they call scene secure. And when you call 911 for situations such as overdoses or something like that, anytime that you have a medical situation, there's a possibility that the situation could escalate, that the responders could be put in harm's way.
Right.
For instance, if they respond to an overdose and they administer Narcan, it's not unusual for the patient to become combative.
Right, because they come out of that
high. So we want to make sure that we have officers on the scene first to make sure that the responders, when they proceed in, don't become victims themselves.
What advice would you give a young person that wants to do what you want to do?
Run. No. Anytime that I have somebody that's interested in doing this, what I try to tell them is that don't look at this as just a job. This is a career. When you take that call, you have the possibility of making an impact in somebody's life, whether good or bad.
Right.
Your attitude on that telephone depends on how that call could turn out. If you come,
life or death.
Yeah. If you have a situation to where you're just having a bad day, you can't let that bad day show when you're talking to the caller.
Right.
you know, if you have an idea that you want to do it, the main thing that you need to understand is that you need to have a clean criminal history in order to be able to do this job.
Correct.
So you can't have any kind of criminal
Be
background.
careful what you do first. That's right.
Right.
So,
If you have a felony or a Class B misdemeanor, it could disqualify you from this job. So keep a clean nose.
So, thank you, folks, for being the first responder and your whole team, and trying to keep Iredell County safe and out there. So, thank you very much for your service, Mark.
Thank you.
Well, there you go, Mike. We made it through number 5.
All right, let's keep rolling. I know we've got some good stuff planned for next week. I've got an interview scheduled with Sarah Kirkman, District Attorney.
Right.
We're also planning on meeting with the Troutman Mayor and City Manager to talk about all the big happenings in Troutman. A lot going on there.
Okay, a lot going on, and I'll be interviewing somebody about Dairy Month, and we'll have that on there because Iredell County is the #1 dairy producing county in the whole state.
Right.
So it's amazing. So thank you to all of our sponsors, and go out to SVLfreenews.com and sign up for the email edition so you'll get this right away. And we thank you for all the comments, and we'll see. Oh, you're going to be on vacation next week.
Yeah, but I'll still be on the show.
They're still on the show. That's right. Okay, so have a good time next week, and we'll see you guys next week right here on SVL Free News and Views.